shelves for the garage or workshop you can make yourself, which can also serve as a convenient workbench. A shelf is also a rack, and a workbench is also a table. So this is also a shelf table transformer. For example, one such transformer shelf can be a workbench, and the second transformer shelf can be a great table for hanging out in the garage. And all of this in a trendy loft style. For cramped spaces, a shelf table transformer or a shelving workbench transformer is a real find. All thanks to a very impressive transformation system, which I didn't come up with myself. This design is repeatedly recreated by home craftsmen and do-it-yourself bloggers all over the world. They use a wide range of power tools and expensive machines for this. The channel of Yasha Kosiak's songs has long gone against established norms and rules. This time, I'll show and prove that even a school kid can replicate this seemingly complex structure. Moreover, it's an improved version. Almost everything can be done with simple hand tools. From power tools, I'll only be using a drill driver. I wanted to use a jigsaw as well, but my old one broke, and the new one I ordered online is still on its way. That's no reason to put off something you want to start right now. So, hello everyone. Let's get started. I'll tell you about the sizes I used as we go along. And after watching this video, anyone who wants to will be able to make this useful piece of furniture for themselves right away. By the way, strict wives, especially those who don't approve of garage parties, might not even suspect that the shelf also functions as a table. Regarding the choice of material, at first I wanted to buy one large sheet of plywood, but it wouldn't fit in the car and I didn't want to pay for delivery. So I bought two smaller sheets, each measuring 60 by 120 centimeters and 20 millimeters thick. I decided to cut it with a handsaw for wood that has rather fine teeth. I bought it because it was on a big discount, but because of those fine teeth, I haven't found much use for it around the house yet. It cuts the bars well, but slowly. With plywood, the saw handles it surprisingly quickly and efficiently. I'm marking the width of the future shelves at 24 centimeters, and according to the size of the sheets I'm using, their length will be 60 centimeters. I cut two shelves from one side of the sheet, then turn the remaining piece around and cut two more. This way, the error introduced by the marking will definitely be smaller. I got four shelves, each 24 centimeters wide from one sheet, plus a slightly narrower piece. It will be used for other smaller parts. To save plywood, I'm arranging the parts more compactly. Now I have to get creative with the cutting. At the start of each cut, I make notches with a hacksaw for metal. Then I use a wood saw. This way, the beginning of the cut is more precise. I don't have a jigsaw yet, so I'm making do with a drill and screwdriver. I end up with L-shaped blanks measuring 12 by 24 centimeters, and their width is 5 centimeters. The handsaw cuts well, but sanding afterwards is definitely necessary. I slightly round off the corners on the long sides of the future shelves. This is mostly manual work, and personally, it doesn't bother me at all. Maybe it's because back in my school years, I learned well how to make a hammer using only a file during shop class. Soviet life was so calm and measured that making a hammer out of a piece of iron was truly a remarkable event. Along with that work, I also learned the saying that patience and hard work can overcome anything. I also remember my school geometry lessons. The radii of the curves are equal to half the width of the blanks. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 centimeters. Even though I've noticeably sped up the manufacturing process for your convenience, Handwork isn't nearly as slow as it might seem. Foreign YouTube craftsmen use circular saws, miter saws, band saws, milling machines, and sanding machines to make such simple parts. This is very dangerous and can cause injuries. School children should never be allowed near them, and it's extremely risky even for adults who haven't worked with such equipment before. To get injured the way I do, you really have to try hard. If a handheld saw slips, your working hand will stop it instantly, causing at most a couple of shallow scratches. The positive side of this kind of work is that you develop real calluses and gain confidence in your physical strength and in a bright future. But to develop calluses, you probably need to make about a dozen of these items. Then it was decided to use a store-bought planned wooden bar with a cross-section of 3 by 5 centimeters. To start, I bought 4 bars, each 1.5 meters long. Since it was made for sale and not for personal use, the quality of the finish is mediocre. But hand sanding turns it into a bar for personal use. I believe that in the age of construction hypermarkets and the internet, filling a cramped workshop with a bunch of machines is not the best solution, especially if you, like me, are just a hobbyist and don't work on commission. One of my friends just surrounded himself with tools and machines. He uses many of them very rarely. The innate urge for this is a curse for many. Even dispossession and 70 years of Soviet rule did not reduce this phenomenon. So hoarding is in our genes? To drill a 90-degree hole in a part without a drill press, which takes up an entire corner, you can use a very simple life hack. I found it on the internet. I take a simple mounting bracket, and when drilling, I align the drill bit with its sides. In all the recent years, this is the first time I've needed such precision. I'm using a drill bit with an 8mm diameter. The task is solved with the help of a simple household tool. The most complex parts, the shelf, the rack, the workbench, and the transformer, are ready. And, as you may have noticed, making them by hand is not difficult at all. Both the bar and the L-shaped part are 5 centimeters wide. I align it precisely, secure it, and drill. The perpendicular hole in the workpiece sets the same precise perpendicular direction for the hole in the bar. To fasten the structure, I decided to use regular bolts 8mm in diameter with washers and nuts. The bolts will also serve as reliable rotation axes. I secure a versatile part simulating the thickness of the future shelf, a piece of plywood, and come to the conclusion that the next part should be placed with a small gap relative to the first one. This way, the rotating elements won't interfere with each other. From the tutorials I've watched by foreign craftsmen, I realized that almost everyone makes the same mistake by not leaving these gaps. Then they struggle for a long time creating them by hand, which negates all the advantages of their mechanization. I make the subsequent gaps using a piece of scrap metal I found among the junk. And now felt boots, yes, felt boots, oh yes, they're not patched, they're old. Then I set the L-shaped blanks with their short sides strictly perpendicular to the first and second bars. I fix, drill, and screw them in. First, the one at the edge on one side. Then the one at the edge on the other side. I fix all the other L-shaped pieces to the second beam just like the first two. First, I line everything up evenly, then I drill and screw them in. I decided to use washers between the L-shaped pieces and the beams. The friction when turning should be reduced. Now, the next transformer shelf will be made even faster thanks to the new electric jigsaw. Finishing the first one almost by hand is already a matter of principle. I make the second piece exactly the same way, but kind of mirrored. I ended up with one right side panel and one left. I'm unscrewing the first two L-shaped pieces from the right and left side panels. To connect them with the first shelf, I'll use my favorite hardware, the furniture screw, also known as a confirmat. For the confirmat, you need a special confirmat drill bit. My old one is very dull, as you can see, so I had to go get a new one. To screw in the confirmat, you need a special hex bit. The first shelf is ready. Then I unscrew the next L-shaped parts and screw them together again. The first and last shelves are installed. They work perfectly. Even though I try to do everything as precisely as possible, it's still handmade work, not work done with strict templates and jigs. That's why I didn't dare to swap the L-shaped parts. I unscrew the limiting shelf and screw it back in the same place. I couldn't attach the third shelf so that there would be washers between it and the bars. I'll have to take it apart and assemble it a different way. To avoid mixing up the right part with the left one during assembly, I mark them with arrows. I decided to number the shelves. That way they definitely won't get mixed up. I mark the spots for drilling the confirmat holes in advance, so the shelf shouldn't look sloppy. Here's the optimal assembly algorithm. First, I screw the shelves to the bars on one side, making sure to use washers. Then I screw them to the bars on the other side. If you don't use washers, you can assemble it any way you like, but I think they definitely won't hurt. I found some high-quality plywood at the store, so I made the shelves out of it. A furniture board will work just as well for the shelves. There's a wide selection, and you can even find one that's already the right size for the shelves, so then you'll only need to cut out the L-shaped pieces. But it's most reliable to make them out of high-quality plywood. Guys, we're absolutely on the right track. Thanks to using bolts and confirmats, I haven't needed any carpentry skills so far. A board or a furniture panel can crack, but plywood is a composite and can withstand much greater dynamic loads. How do I know all this? I'm just an intuitive strength of materials guy. My intuition rarely lets me down. All that's left is to make the base, which foreign DIYers usually make strictly according to woodworking canons. They use an arsenal of precision woodworking machines to make tenons, grooves, and other complexities. But as Ulyanov Lenin said, we will take a different path. For newly arrived foreign viewers, let me inform you. Belarus is an independent country located in the very geographical center of Europe, with a socially oriented economy. Oligarchs are not respected here. If the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics had not collapsed, today it might look something like our Belarus. The Belarusian people are developing and multiplying the achievements of Soviet people. In our compact country, we produce the largest trucks in the world. This is far from the biggest one. Despite the persistent agricultural status, the overwhelming majority of the population lives in cities. That's why the world-famous Belarus tractors now have to be produced in an unmanned version. We have pretty good roads. That's why Belarusian engineers using a Chinese sport utility vehicle as a base, attached a large battery to its underside, and created a Belarusian electric car, making good use of the unnecessary high ground clearance. That's our Belarus. To avoid complicated traditional joinery for the base, I use a furniture board. The purchase blank measures 150 by 20 centimeters and has perfectly straight corners. I simply cut it in half. Simple work with Tomeska was only needed at the leg stage, and that was just to create the illusion that this is a carpentry product. In reality, a simple method of assembling case furniture was used. Main thing here, like me, is not to mess up. A standard conformat screw is too long and sticks out from the other side of the bar. Instead of looking for non-standard ones, it's faster to shorten the standard ones. I'm drilling holes not for standard, but for shortened conformat screws. I had to get a bit creative. A bit of pseudo-carpentry again. Its inaccuracy can only affect the appearance, but not the strength. And the strength has to be top-notch. Trust my intuition. The size of the next part was determined experimentally. 73 by 14 centimeters with a thickness of 20 millimeters. And that's important. That's why an 18 millimeter furniture board is not suitable. I decided to piece it together from scraps since I no longer have a whole sheet of plywood. It will hardly be noticeable. I screwed this part to the L-shaped elements of the central shelf. The distance between the outer sides of the supports will also be 73 centimeters. Based on this, I determined the length of the crossbar. It won't be visible, and using mounting brackets is the simplest option for a reliable connection. A bit more furniture board. It became clear how much the bars can be shortened. The shelving workbench shelf transformer table started working right away without any problems. I believe it was clearly shown and proven that simple work like this is within reach not only for experienced craftsmen with lots of equipment. Even a school kid can handle it, and even more so, any beginner craftsman. A Soviet school kid would definitely handle it. And this piece of shield is for extra rigidity of the base. By the way, furniture board is a pretty inexpensive material. You can install caster wheels, but I just use cheap height adjustable ones. As I expected, when folding and unfolding, the nuts start to loosen. I tighten them slightly and lock everything in place. It seems I managed to make a few improvements to this wonder construction myself. An upgrade from the Pesny Yashi Koshaka channel, so to speak. Adding a plywood back panel greatly increases the overall rigidity. In Workbench mode, an additional very deep shelf appears. Adding door latches will prevent accidental transformation from shelf mode. In Workbench table mode, 2 through pins made from 6mm threaded rods screwed in will prevent accidental transformation into a shelving unit. Furniture nuts were used as the female parts. Final touches. By the way, this do-it-yourself project can make a great heartfelt gift for good people. Share this video with your good friends. It turned out to be a really convenient workbench and not just a useless YouTube trinket. With it, you can now set up a workshop even on an apartment balcony. A very spacious shelving unit. Despite its rather compact size, the transformer has only a few important dimensions. All the others follow from them. If there had been such a transformer table in Ilyich time, the gendarmes would have caught him and his comrades working on revolutionary tasks much less often, and Lenin wouldn't have ruined his health in exile.